بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So last time we had spoken about what had happened to the Prophet ﷺ in Taif, and we had mentioned and discussed why did he ﷺ, number one, why did he go to Taif? What happened? This is Medina, right? All right, is this Medina? Yes, okay. Let me make sure it's the right slide. Yes. Okay. So the protection, not so much. He was still from Banu Hashim. He didn't have the same level of protection because what had happened was, they couldn't attack the Prophet ﷺ directly, right? Like this was the major problem, the major issue that they had. But what did the death of Abu Talib open and facilitate? Yes.
Yeah, because like the people at Makkah, they like denying him.
Sure.
So he decided to go to Taif and see.
Okay, so basically he ﷺ had reached a point where he was pressured, and he was so cornered, he was like, okay, let me go somewhere else, right? Let me go somewhere else, let me call some other people. And even up until this point, was Ta'if the first place that the Muslims have gone to? No? What is the other place that they've gone to? Habasha. How many times?
Twice.
Happened twice, right? So it's not one migration, it was two migrations to Habasha. The Prophet ﷺ is now, he's going out, he's reaching to Ta'if, he's trying to call the people to Islam, he's trying to get them to accept. And how many people accept in Ta'if? One person. Addas, right? Very famously, he was the only companion that had accepted in Ta'if. And how did the Prophet ﷺ win his heart?
He told him about past prophets.
Right, so a past prophet specifically, because Addas wasn't native, right? He wasn't native from there. He says that he's like, where are you from? He said, I'm from Medina, and he was like, oh, that's the place of, not Medina, Nainawa, jazakallah khair. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. So he's like, oh, I'm from Nainawa. Oh, he's like, oh, Nainawa, that's actually where my brother is from. He said, oh, which brother? He said, Yunus ibn Matta. And Addas, he asked him, he's like, وَمَا أَدْرَكَ عَنْ يُونُس ibn Matta? He's like, what do you know about Yunus ibn Matta? He says that, we're brothers from a different mother. And he started telling him about that, and he said, SubhanAllah, yeah, you're the person who we were told of. Like, you were the person who we were told of. And immediately, what did he do? He took his shahada, and he said, I wish I had water. Why did he want it? He's like, because I wanted to wash your feet. And his owners are there, right? So the owners of Addas are there, and they're like, you never offered to wash our feet. And he was like, you're not a prophet, right? This being is actually special. This being is actually amazing, right? This is the one that was promised, and so he accepted Islam. So after Taif, what happens? The Prophet, he comes down, the angels come to him, they said, hey, you want us to destroy this town between these mountains? And he, sallallahu, what does he say? He says no. And this is very telling of the forgiving nature of him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he forgave these people, he forgave these individuals. And then it's getting worse in Mecca, because it's gotten to a point where what happens? Now, why is migration becoming a very serious contender for all of the Muslims? Because some of them left before, right? So yeah, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, and you had a few other people who had migrated already and they had already left. But the Prophet ﷺ hadn't left yet. So what are some of the reasons that he stayed so long in Medina and Mecca? I'm sorry? Number one, he didn't get permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What else? Huh?
His wife, like financial.
She had already passed away by this point, right? Khadija radiallahu anha, she already passed away. And he didn't marry again until when? Until Medina, right? Until Medina.
He wasn't betrothed before?
I'm sorry?
He wasn't betrothed before Hijrah?
Between Khadija and, no. Indi, no. I believe between Khadija and Sa'ad, that was it. There was a gap.
Because he loved Makkah, that's why he didn't.
Simple. He loved Mecca. He loved Mecca. And he says to Mecca, he says to it, لو ما أخرجتني ما خرجت. He's like, had you not kicked me out, I would never have left. Like I love Mecca, I love this city, I love this place. And this helps us really understand why our hearts are so attached to places. Like they become so attached to places that, we're going to stay until the absolute last moment, to the point where the Prophet ﷺ, he was actually getting kicked out and he was getting removed from that place. What pushed him to that? How did he like? Because they physically didn't like just pick him up and put him out. So what happened? What was it that was kind of the catalyst?
They were plotting to.
Now they had become so brazen. They had become so brazen that they were now plotting to kill him. And because they were plotting to kill him, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what? He's like, it's time to go. It's time for you to leave. And how was he? You guys know the story of the night that he left? So what happened? He was getting ready. Abu Bakr, he's waiting for Abu Bakr to say, hey, the camels are ready. We need to go. And the Prophet ﷺ calls who? Ali radiallahu anhu. He doesn't call anyone. He calls Ali. And Ali radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ, what does he tell him? He said, I'll see you. He said, I'll see you in Medina. And Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, that was the only night I slept well. He knew that the Qurayshis were coming to kill him, right? Like he knew that. And how did they plan it? So basically, there was a tribal meeting. You had the heads of these tribes, and they're all thinking, okay, listen, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has become a problem, right? He's an issue now. We need to do something about him. So what conclusion? Can they come to a conclusion? They actually don't. They actually don't come to a conclusion. And then there's an old man in the corner. What does he say?
One of each tribe. So that
Yeah, so the first thing he said is, why don't you kill him? And they said, how can we do that? The individual tribes cannot deal with the revenge that is going to be sought. So he tells them what? He said, get one representative from each tribe, and all of them strike at once. It's not possible that Banu Hashim retaliates against everyone. And it was on that night that he sallallahu alayhi wasallam left. It was on that night he radiallahu anh, alayhi salam, Ali radiallahu anh, he took the bed of that night. Interestingly enough, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was from the first or the last group of people to leave. He was the last.
From the last.
Yeah, from the last. What does that tell us about him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Make sure everyone's safe.
Right, his care for others. And had he left first, would any of the companions have said anything? Right, as soon as the oppression started and he started looking like, okay, hey, like we need to get out of here. We need to leave. So this very much gives us an insight into why is it that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam stayed so long? He loved it for sure. What is another reason he stayed?
well, he wanted to have their backs. You go first. You set up the.
Were there people who had challenges in leaving? 100%. So what did he want to do? He wanted to make sure that even the weakest were given an opportunity to leave, so that they would leave, and he would finally feel at peace, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, making sure that everybody was gone, and then he sallallahu alaihi wasallam followed them. So he goes to Medina. The first thing he sets up is a masjid. And where does he sallallahu alaihi wasallam live?
On top of a.
So-
On top of a sahabi.
Right? So now he lives away from it, and then he starts building the masjid. And once the masjid is complete, he has his hujr. He has this room built, he starts getting married. Naam, tafadhal.
But the Quba mosque is different than that.
So Quba, yes. There's khilaf on the understanding of the ayah too.
No way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. So the thing, and there's if we go back to the books of tafsir, they say والمسجد الذي بنيت يعني أول بنيت يعني الأساس التقوى يعني I forgot the ayah. In the Mufassirin, they say that this applies to either Masjid al-Quba or a Masjid Nabawi. And and some of them they reconcile by saying, okay, the Prophet ﷺ, he put the foundations, like he basically drew the skeleton for Masjid al-Quba, that this is the place where Quba would be, and then he left and he established Masjid Nabawi. Why is it so important for him ﷺ to have the foundation and the starting place as a masjid? Why did he begin with that?
Start creating a community.
So this gives us insight into what a masjid does and the role of a masjid. That the masjid is actually what? For them, it was very much a community center, very much. Right? It was there that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would greet. What are they called? What's the word I'm looking for? When you have delegates, yes. Right? Like no, he would entertain delegates. The homeless, right? It's like you have no place to stay. They would stay in the masjid, right? So the masjid served like this huge community purpose for different things, meetings, gatherings of knowledge. The Prophet ﷺ would go and he would teach in that space. The women, they came to the Prophet, like after things started getting going, and they started the Prophet ﷺ, the women, they came to him, ﷺ, you know, what did they say to him? They said, Ya Rasulullah, the men always have access to. Give us one day. Like we're not asking for a lot. We just want one day, and the Prophet ﷺ gave them a day where he specialized and he gave, you know, just to the women to teach them and to educate them. So all this is happening. And at the same time, what is the Prophet ﷺ doing with the native tribes that are there? Right? So you have the 5 Jewish tribes in that area. You have some of the pagan tribes that are still around. What does he do with them?
A constitution or a
Yeah, he makes an agreement, he makes a treaty with them. It's like, okay, hey, listen, on this basis, we're going to live together. We're not going to violate this. We're going to respect your space. We expect you to respect ours. And what is the benefit of making such an agreement?
Give dawah.
Okay, number one, you can give da'wah. Why? Because now I'm in a state of what? Of security, right? Like I'm in a state of peace. It's very difficult to do those things if things are constantly in flux. So he said, now they have a state of security. They have a state of, you know, where they have a little bit of peace. They have a little bit of control. They're able to structure and organize things. So even though the 5 daily prayers, they're obligated when? I'm sorry? Isra and Miraj. And Isra and Miraj happen when?
The years are
Before Hijrah. So here he sallallahu how did they make those 5 daily prayers? Right, like were they able to congregate like we congregate? Right, it was very difficult. So the first place that they gathered was where in Mecca?
Where?
Yeah.
The Akram
Dar al-Aqram. Right, so they would gather in Dar al-Aqram. This is where they would gather. You know, if they were able to make their prayers, they would. Otherwise, a lot of these things were happening like behind closed doors. They were very, you know, they had to be very secret about it. But now you have a big public open space. You have a masjid. And in the masjid, one of the first things that the Prophet ﷺ orders and commands is what? A call to the adhan. Why? Because you have to, right now you have the ability to congregate, right?
The drinks.
Right, so yeah, and how did he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he calls for it. And Umar radiallahu anhu, when he hears the adhan, what does he do? He comes out of his house and he's like, what? He's like, Wallahi, I saw the same dream. Right, I saw the same dream. So you have the adhan, you have structure now behind the different, behind the different religious rites that are happening. You have now delegations that are coming in. Like now it's starting to look like a very vibrant city. And this was between the Jews and between the local pagans. For the Muslims, what did he do? There's a system he sallallahu alaihi wasallam created.
Brotherhood.
Yeah. The Ikhwan. No, I'm saying that. He created the Mu'akha. Right? So he created the Mu'akha system. And this is very different than just general brotherhood. I'm sorry? Mu'akha is like brothering? Yeah, like it's like brothering. I don't know. Is that a good, I guess that's a good translation. I don't know. I can't. Yeah, no. So I'll explain it, and then that'll help give you an idea of what it means. So what is the Mu'akha system? What did he sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? He paired people.
Exactly.
So who did he pair?
He paired the Meccans
Yeah.
with the Medina folks.
Right. So he would pair a Ansari with a Muhajir. Why did he do that?
To create some bonding between them, to get to know.
Sure. I think there's a social element that's definitely to it, right? So like the culture and the people of Medina, was it the same as the culture of the people of Mecca? No, right? Like the people of Mecca, they're mainly traders, right? They're mainly traders, like they did with animals, like, you know, they would have like these summer and winter things. And the people of Medina are mainly what?
They're
Farmers, right? They're mainly farmers. Like that's what they did. So it's amazing how he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he talks about how to measure different things, he said that the weights, when you weigh something, use the weighing of the people of who? Of Mecca. And if you use the volume of something, take the volume of the people of Medina. And why is that? Because when you trade, how do you exchange goods? What am I exchanging? Money. And money is always, in that time, remember, it's what?
Gold.
Gold and silver. So how much gold do I decide to give to someone? It was be dirham and dinar. How do I know if that dirham is fake or real? How do I know if that dinar is fake or real? What do I use? I have to use a scale. I have to weigh it. In Medina, there was more bartering, right? It was more bartering. It was less about weights. So, but why did they use volume? How come they didn't use weights? Like, okay, if I have dates and you have barley, right? Or if you have oat and I have grapes, like, why did they use volume?
Stuff.
Huh?
Stuff.
No, it's food stuff for sure. But I'm saying, like, how come they didn't use weight?
They didn't have it.
They didn't have weight.
No, I mean, they don't have the mean to weigh big things, I would say.
So, you guys know how they used to, like, you know how volumes work back then? You guys know what a mud is?
Yeah.
Basket.
It's not even a basket. What is a mud?
Picture?
This is a mud.
Ah.
So it's like, hey, let me get 2 mud of dates. 1, 2. Right? That was the measurement. It was very quick. It was very easy. I also think that it was considered fair for them. If I ground barley and I have dates, and think about volume, right? I want you guys to think about volume. Will the weight be unequal if I have the same volume?
Yes.
Yes, it will. But is the value of those two things the same? So that's why for them it was okay, right? So if I traded you 1 sa of dates, a sa is 4 mud, right? So 4 handfuls. If I traded you 1 sa of dates for 1 sa of barley, I don't feel like I necessarily lost everything, because the weight of the barley is going to be significantly more, right? Because it doesn't take up as much space as like dates do, especially dried dates. So, Allahu Alam, like I would imagine like that's one of the reasons. So here you have a system now that's being established in Medina. Things are starting to get a little bit more organized. And finally, the Prophet ﷺ, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, everything's structured, everything's organized, we're good. And they go out on a scouting mission. What are they scouting for? Enemies. Why? The Qurayshis are still mad, right? They're still upset, even though what? So when the Muhajirin left, were they able to take all of their goods and their wares and like all their furniture? Were they able to take that stuff? Was it like moving? Like, did they rent a U-Haul and they're like, all right, let's go up to Medina? They left with nothing. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ created this mu'akha system. Because immediately now the people have a place to stay, right? They have a place to live, and they have a local guide, right? They have a place to live, they have a local guide, they have someone who could show them around. And you have, who's that, Abu Darda or Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As? I don't remember the companion. But basically, he goes and he stays, and he's like, listen, stay as long as you want, take half of my stuff, whatever it is that you need, you can have it. And he's like, no, I'm good. I just need what? I just need the suq. Right? I just need the marketplace. Tell me where it is. I'll handle it. I'll take care of the rest. And the mu'akha system, even though it's no longer applicable, it does give us a little bit of insight on how to help in situations, like especially for like we're neighboring areas, or like how do we kind of deal with like refugee populations? Like how do we deal with people who are displaced? I had, and this is a bit of a side tangent, but I had an older gentleman come to me, And he came to me, he's like, Sheikh, I want to get your advice. I was like, sure, what's up? He said, I gave a khutbah on immigration today. I was like, okay, that's fine. And he was like, he's telling me, and he was trying to compare it, to what happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, XYZ. So I said to him, I was like, okay. I said, do you believe, I said, what is your solution? He's like, well, the government should step in and they should facilitate it. I said, is that a correct parallel to draw with the muakhaz system? I'm curious, what do you guys think? So he's saying that the government should provide housing, the government should provide it should provide all of these services and these things for people who are displaced. Is it a good parallel to draw with what happened during the time of the Prophet?
Which government here, the U.S.?
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
They do, right? So you have a lot of refugee populations who are given housing, right? They're given support. Some of them were even given like credit cards, and like in different capacities.
I mean, you can also Saudi Arabia do that if the refugees do it.
I said we can ask everyone, right? I'm saying like you can ask every neighboring nation to take in the refugees of every single neighboring nation, but I'm less concerned with that for the time being, and just in relation to this question, because it can answer a larger question, which is yes. Go ahead.
I don't feel like it's the exact same.
Okay.
Like the welfare system is more like taking the responsibility as us as the community to help
Sure.
people to provide those things that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
need.
Sure.
And then the other system that you were describing was like let's that responsibility solely on the government and then the rest of it takes
Sure.
that back. And it's like,
Yeah, and that's exactly what I told him. I said, listen, the muakhaz system, it puts individual responsibility on families.
yeah.
And in this system, because if you wanted to draw a parallel, basically what would have to happen is the Prophet ﷺ would have to go to the Ansar, and he would have to do what? He would have to fundraise, right? He'd be like, okay, hey, listen, give me all your money. And then what would he do when the Muhajirin came? He'd have to distribute it to them. But that's not what happened. Why? I argue that what the Prophet ﷺ implemented was superior. Why?
Well, because it was not diffused responsibility. Each person had to focus on the person he was assigned.
What? Not just that, it becomes more real,
Yeah.
right?
You built relationships.
Thank you. People talk about, oh, people don't assimilate, and people don't do this, and people aren't adapting to the culture, and do that. Okay, how is that going to be facilitated if you keep them removed and keep them isolated? And the Prophet ﷺ, like, what is he doing? And the amazing thing is, like, under that muakhaz system, like what happened, you actually have a lot of muhajirin, they start asking questions. They start talking to the Ansar. And sometimes some of the questions are actually very intimate. Some of them even go to the Prophet ﷺ and they say, Ya Rasulullah, these guys are intimate with their wives like this. He's like, is that okay? Like, you know what I mean? Like to this point, the thing is, when you mix cultures, what happens? Like you talk about all kinds of stuff. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't tell them like, oh, Abe, oh, you shouldn't talk about these things. That's so, that's too private. And blah, blah. No. He says, فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ. He's like, approach as you like. He's like, she's your wife. So it's important, like that mixing of cultures, it gives exposure, right? It helps bring levels of understanding. And why? Because now it's forced integration, right? Like you're forcing it. You're making, and you're putting the people in front of you, you're actually making it real people. It's not the people over there, right? It's not some distant people. So that's why I said, like, so I argued that it was a superior system. So they're out on the scouting mission. They're looking for the enemy. The Qurayshis are still mad at them. And guess who's still mad at the Qurayshis? The Muhajirin. Right? Like, all their stuff got stolen, right? Like understandably angry, understandably upset. So you have a scouting mission. And for scouting missions, how battle ready are you when you go out to scout? Are you wearing like full armor and like you have all your weapons and everything? No. Why? Because you're just thinking that what? You're just going to go see, you're just going to collect information, right? That's all you're going to do. And all of a sudden you have 300 plus people out there, and they hear the caravan of Abu Sufyan is coming. And how large is the caravan of Abu Sufyan? It's like 1,000 plus. 1,000 plus people coming. 300 people who didn't go out with the intention of fighting. And they're there, and the Prophet ﷺ says that, hey guys, listen. Asa an takrahu shay, fahuwa khayrun lakum. And they're like, all right. Like, if this is what we have to do, this is what we're going to do. And again, minimally armed, not even with the mindset to go into battle. And they're going now to face this caravan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he plays this illusion on both sides. So the illusion that he plays for the Quraysh is that the number of Muslims is actually what? Smaller or bigger than what it appears? Huh?
On the Qurayshi,
On the Qurayshi side, yeah.
it looks bigger.
So on the Qurayshi side, it doesn't actually look, it doesn't look bigger. It looks a little bit smaller than it is. And on the Prophet ﷺ side, they look what? So if there's 1,000 in number, what does Allah make it appear like to them? Huh? No. He makes it appear like it's twice their number.
So it's smaller.
No. So it's smaller. Yeah, meaning that instead of it appearing like 1,000, it looked like 600. Right? It looked like 600-700 people. How come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't make it look like 300? Huh? Practical in what sense? Huh.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't get overconfident. Right? Because it's like, oh, 300 of them is like, oh, the Qurayshis are punks anyway, right? Like we can handle them, we can take care of them. But it's like, okay, when it's 2-on-1, they're like, all right, it's tough, but those odds are what? They're manageable. Because had it been 3-on-1, like if they had actually appeared to them, how would they have felt? Like then they would have gotten discouraged. They'd be like, yo, 3-on, I don't know. You know, I can handle 2 of them. I don't know if I can handle the 3 at a time. And then they go into battle, and they win. The Quraysh disperse. Some of the heads are still alive, and they head back to Mecca. And now the Muslims have access to.
Their money back.
They're starting to get their money back. What was the first collection that happened in Medina? So this is before Badr. The Prophet ﷺ, he was collecting money, right? He said, listen, give for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. But what was he collecting for? But where was he spending the money? Huh? He was spending it on weapons. Why? Because that's the quickest way to start recouping your losses. So they have this battle in Badr. The Meccans say, we'll be back like this time next year. Let's meet again, right here. So next year rolls around. Prophet said, all right, let's go. They go out there, nobody's there. They decide not to follow up. But now the Muslims are becoming a problem for the Quraysh. Even though they're all gone now, they left Mecca, now they're becoming a problem for the Qurayshis. So the Prophet ﷺ, they finally feel like they have some strength. They feel like they have enough manpower. They said, we're going to go make Umrah. So they go to make Umrah. And what happens?
They were far.
They got stopped. So the Quraysh stopped them. And when the Quraysh stopped them, they say, okay, listen, is there something that we can negotiate? They say, listen, send one of your people. And who do they send? Uthman radiallahu anhu. Why did they send Uthman?
He's noble and
He's noble, for sure. Recognized. But why him specifically? Right? There's so many noble people. He's a businessman. And at the end of the day, if you want to negotiate, who do you send in? You send in your businessman. Be like, look, listen, go cut a deal. And Uthman, he's gone. He's gone for a while now. So what is the Prophet? The companions, they're like, yo, we're gonna go get our man. Like, we think they killed him. So the Prophet, he takes an oath from them. In that oath, he says that we're gonna fight till the last man. Like, we're going to go in, we're going to go get our man, and we're going to fight till the last man. And then who do they see coming in the distance? They see Uthman. Right? They see Uthman coming back. And this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he reveals about these people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven all their sins. And just because of their intention. Right? They didn't even do anything. Like, they didn't even fight. They just made the commitment, and because of the commitment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them. So Uthman comes back, and Uthman's like, listen, I got them to a point where they're ready to negotiate. If you want to work out the terms with them. Because before, there was no negotiations. Like, yo, you're not coming in. Like, at all. And what are some of the terms? The terms are, okay, if somebody escapes and makes it to Medina, you have to what? You got to send them back to Mecca. And if someone from you comes into Mecca, we get to what? We get to keep them. And you can't make Umrah this year. You have to come back next year. And the Prophet ﷺ was like, bet. Other companions were like, what is this? Like, this is a terrible agreement. This is a terrible treaty. Like, why are you agreeing to this? Ya Rasulullah. You know what I mean? Like, they're like genuinely upset. You know, it says Muhammad Rasulullah. They're like, nah. If we thought he was Rasulullah, we wouldn't even be here. Like, we wouldn't be negotiating nothing. Like, remove that. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he was writing, and he turns to the Prophet ﷺ, he's like, I'm not removing it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, show me where it is. Why did he say that?
Because he can't read.
He was unlettered, right? He was unlettered. He didn't read. So he's like, show me where it is, and he erased it. And he removed it. Why did the Prophet ﷺ agree to it? Why did he agree to such terrible terms?
For peace and dawah.
Okay. There's something greater, I would argue. Yes? Fath still hasn't happened yet. And I'm sure the Prophet ﷺ knew that there would be victory at some point. Maybe he didn't have an idea exactly when. But like, why agree to such terrible terms? Yeah.
You had conviction that he would win.
Okay. Eventually you'd win. Sure. I agree with all that. But there's a real fundamental reason. Yes. Maybe.
Maybe let them feel like they're, strong or something, and just
Like kind of trick them, like machinations of war. Yes. Okay. I would argue it was greater than all these things. Who do you make a treaty with?
Your enemy.
Think about that. Who do you make a treaty with? Can I go walk up to the White House right now and be like, I want to make a treaty with the state of Farhan and the United States of America? What are they going to do with me? They're like, yo, this guy's crazy. Get off the lawn. Now there's state recognition now. Right? Because you only do treaties with who?
With another equal.
People who you recognize. And it's like, okay, now this is a formidable force. Right? This is a state. And the moment you get that recognition, it's like, yo, we're in the UN. Right? Like, we're in.
It's like solidified as Islamic Republic.
Now, you're a republic. You're a country now. Right? Like, we have the reason and the motive and how you made this treaty, it means that we are now what, officially? We're officially a country. Because you don't make treaties with non-countries. You don't make treaties with individuals. You make them with nations. And that's why he was able to make, that's why he made all those concessions. Even those concessions, they worked in favor of the Prophet ﷺ. So what would happen is that people would escape from Mecca, they would try to enter Medina, and they're like, hey, listen, we agreed, we can't set you up. So what happened to these people? They started setting up camp between Mecca and Medina and raiding the caravans. So not only were they getting attacked, you know what I mean? Like, so they knew they had safety in Medina, but there's like, now the route isn't safe. Because you have all these people, and they're like, yo, check, they tell the people in Medina, like, yo, check your people. And they're like, they're not our people, you told us to send them back. Like, yo, like, that's your problem now. And are there people in Mecca like who ended up having to stay and like be oppressed? Yeah. The hadith Khubayb, very famously. He was trying to leave, he tried to escape, he became a slave. He would be the one like, and even his owners, they say, Wallahi, we never had a better slave than him. And when it was time to execute him, they're like, you want anything? He's like, yeah. He's like, just let me pray 2 rakat. And they were like, they started laughing. And he came back and he prayed short. And they're like, well, why didn't you pray longer? He's like, I didn't want y'all to think I was afraid of death. I wanted to pray longer, but I didn't want you guys to think that Muslims are cowards. And there were situations even in the home where he'd be preparing the food. And there was a time where he was cutting something and one of their children actually came to him. So what did he do? He took the child in his lap and he just kept cutting. Like nothing happened. He could have what? He could have taken that child hostage and he could have been like, yo, y'all need to let me go. Otherwise this baby's gone. Like, subhanAllah. Like the integrity of the Muslim community, it's so amazing. It really is amazing. So now you have this recognition at Hudaybiyah. The Muslims finally have a state that is recognized by the Arab tribes. And now the state is starting to make decisions. And immediately, what does the Prophet ﷺ do? He starts sending out letters. Think about it. It's actually very strategic. For someone who is not involved in any statehood, subhanAllah, it's actually amazing. It's like you have this Bedouin, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the middle of like the desert, sending letters to emperors, to kings, to conquerors. Like, you just send out letters, left and right. Like, hey, this is Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. Like, we implore you to accept Islam. And da da da. Like, subhanAllah. Why? Because you have recognition now. And now you have these letters going to these international people, and they're like, yeah. Some of them are like, yo, who's this dude? Who's this guy? Like, who's this guy? Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, I need to accept Islam. Like, what is he even talking about? Like, what is he saying? And they're like, and they'd be like, yo, actually, like the king of Persia, he got a letter too, and like this. It's like, wait, bring that letter back, right? Now think about it. It's like, oh man, okay. And what did he do? The Bedouins, right? You know what I mean? Like, just imagine the mindset. It's like the Bedouins, like the Arabs, the desert guys. Muqawqas, what does he do? So Muqawqas was the head of, he was like the ruler of Egypt. What does he do when he gets the letter? That was Kisra. Muqawqas is like, all right, you know what? I don't really know what's going on with these Bedouins, but I'm not trying to have any beef with them. So what does he do? He sends a slave girl for the Prophet ﷺ as a gift. Some of them are like, hey, yeah, we're ready to make agreements. We're ready to make treaties. Like, yo, we're not looking for any beef. We don't want any problems. Some of them are like, Kisra, how did he respond? Like, he ripped the letter in half. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that his nation will fall. His nation will fall and it'll break into pieces just like he ripped up that letter. And he turned to one of the companions and he was like, he's like you. He's like, yeah. He's like, yes, ya Rasulullah. He's like, you're going to be wearing the bracelets of Khosrow.
That was a tracker. It was his tracker.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, man. I forgot the Sahabi. I'm sorry, I'm an old man. I forget this stuff. So now you have statehood. You have recognition. The empire is growing of the Prophet ﷺ. Now it finally gets to a point where these Qurayshis and the Jews, they're starting to feel the pressure, right? Like, they're like, okay, man, these guys are getting pretty strong. They start feeling the pressure. And when you have groups who are very proud, feel pressure, what do some individuals in those groups do? They want to fight back, right? So like if you're part of a people who was once proud, like we were leaders, like yo, we used to run this, like what is this? Like these new people, they just came in and they're taking over. Like what is this? And your leader, you look to your leader and you're like, what's going on? It's like, hey, listen, calm down. Listen, we have an agreement with them. Like don't push any buttons, don't do this. And you're like, yo, what a sellout, right? I mean, I want you guys to understand like the kind of the mindset and the mentality, because you might be like, oh, why did they kill the Qurra when the Prophet ﷺ sent them to Bani Qurayza? Well, the Qurayshis, like, yo, things were okay with them. Like, why did they break their treaty? Like, I want you guys to really think, like, why would anybody break these treaties when you know, like, okay, listen, there's a formidable force here. You yourself recognize that these people are willing to die for the Prophet ﷺ in a way that my people, the people who follow me, are not. And if all you're trying to do at that point is like, yo, you're just trying to hold on to your power. It's like, okay, they're giving me a sliver. Okay, I'm gonna hold on to the sliver as tight as I can. But the people under you, they're getting what? They're getting frustrated. They're getting angry. So they're like, all right, well, let's try to trick the Prophet ﷺ. And they go to him, they're like, oh, we want to learn about Islam. Can you send us people who can teach us Quran? So the Prophet ﷺ, yeah, sure. Here, take 80 of, I'll send 80 hufaz to go and teach the whole tribe. And what do they do with them? They kill them all. They kill all of them. Prophet ﷺ immediately declares war. That's where Banu Qurayza, Ahzab, Khandaq. So all of these Jewish strongholds are all falling. They're being infiltrated. The Prophet ﷺ is like, yo, I can't trust y'all. Like, I send you people to teach you, and this is what you do? It's like, you don't even have the honor to come and fight me, and when you know I'm coming, you retreat into your fortresses? How long do you think you're going to hold out? Banu Qurayza is brought out. Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh comes, the head of the Ansar. And because Banu Qurayza, they're like, man, we want an Ansari to judge us for what we did. You Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you're not from us, we want the people from us to judge us. So the head of the Ansar, he comes, he's like, you want me to judge? And the Prophet ﷺ said, they're requesting you to judge. He's like, execute them all. I'm pretty sure at that time they'd been like, man, we chose the wrong guy, we should chose. We probably should have went with the Prophet ﷺ. And then the Quraysh, same thing, same level of frustration. Imagine, the Quraysh were recognized throughout all of the Arab clans and tribes, they recognized them. And these same people were now being put down, they're being ridiculed, they're being cornered. So now that the nation is growing, right? The Islamic State is growing. They're getting dub after dub, right? Like they're just winning all these battles. And what's happening is like there's a few that they lose, right? So at Uhud they lose, like they manage to rout the contingent. Khandaq, they come in. It's like a completely new way of warfare that the Arabs aren't used to. They don't know. They're not able to infiltrate Medina at that point. And the Muslims are just coming and accepting Islam more and more and more and more. And you have people who are definitely sincere, like coming to Islam, but you also have people who are not. Why? Yes?
It's more like, I think, the reputation of them winning all these battles, where they want to
Yeah.
get on it.
It's like, FOMO. Like, FOMO's a thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh man. And if I'm like, even if I'm from like one of the weaker tribes, what am I going to try to do? I'll be like, I think we should get with the Muslims. Right? Like, for them, it just made sense. Like, strategically, it would make sense. And I'm sure many of them sincerely joined, but a lot of them were like, and why do I say that? Because immediately in the beginning of the Khilafah, Abu Bakr, what happens? Hurub al-Ridda. Right? You have people who don't want to pay zakat, you have people who left Islam, you have like, Like you have all of these disagreements. So in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ. So He's talking about after Fakkah. وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. Like, waves after waves of people coming into Islam. So you have all these people coming into Islam. It's growing. Now it's becoming a force to become reckoned with. And then finally, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the 8th year of Hijrah, he decides to what? He's like, we're going back to Mecca. He goes back to Mecca. He goes 10,000 strong. They surround the city. The Prophet ﷺ said, I want every single one of you to make a fire and put it in front of his encampment. I don't want it in front of every battalion. I want every one of you to do it. Why? Because at night in the dark, what can you see? You can only see the fires. So all of a sudden you see like 10,000 fires and you think there's a contingent behind every single one of those fires. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel like terrified, like, yo, we're about to take this huge L. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, he creates 4 contingents. He ﷺ leads one, Khalid ibn Walid leads another, and then two other companions lead the other two. And they split Medina into quarters. They say, okay, I'm going to be coming through here, you come through here, you come through here. There's only fighting in one of the contingents. And whose is that? And they're Khalid's, radiallahu anh. The rest of them, very peaceful. And the Prophet ﷺ, this was his opportunity. He could have been like, for all the oppression, for all the pain, for all the hurt, for all the death, for all the torture, for all the insults, I'm going to do to you what happened to the people of Bani Qurayza. Would anyone have faulted him?
It would have been just.
It would have been just, very honestly. It would have been very just. Nobody would have said anything. Had he been like, execute them all, companions would have been like, happily. Done. Did I tell you guys the story of Abu Bakr and Abdullah? So at the Battle of Badr, after Abdullah became Muslim, he goes to his father. He's like, you know, Dad, I saw you a number of times on the battlefield. He's like, you know, I would see you, and then I would turn away. He's like, I saw you like 2 or 3 times, and I refused to engage you. So Abu Bakr goes to him. He's like, if I saw you even once, I would have killed you. Again, conviction, right? It's very different. Like the level of conviction, the level of investment, like it's very different. And the fact that he ﷺ was so forgiving, again, this is something that we need to learn, right? How to be forgiving to those who even wronged us. And you can even change the way how you interact and how you deal with people. So the Prophet ﷺ, after Wahshi very famously killed who?
His uncle.
He killed Hamza, radiallahu anh. Hamza was the youngest of his 4 uncles, right? So you had Hamza, Abu Talib, Abu Lahab, and min kan Rabi'? Abbas, yeah. So Abbas was the oldest, right? He was very old. And then Hamza was the youngest, even close to the Prophet ﷺ. Like when he came into Islam, like it really shifted a lot of the momentum. And after Wahshi accepts Islam, the Prophet ﷺ, he calls for him. He's like, tell me how you killed my uncle. So he was like, you know, I saw him between, you know, the things, and he was one after another. He was like, he was jumping. I couldn't get him in my sights until finally I saw him raise his sword. And there was the only moment he stopped, and he said, then I threw my spear at him and hit him in the gut. And then I saw him fall. And the Prophet ﷺ, you know, when Wahshi was like, you know, I was telling him, I looked at him, and he started crying. And he goes to Wahshi, he's like, I can't look at you. Like every time I look at you, I see my uncle. And even though Islam, right? Like in Islam, it forgives you of everything, all this. But the Prophet ﷺ, that pain that it caused, like it helped define that relationship between him and Wahshi. And Wahshi, he took that to his grave. He was like, I killed the most beloved person through the Prophet ﷺ. I want to make it my mission to kill the one who he hates most. So during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, there were a few people who claimed that they were prophets. And he took part in the killing and the assassination of them. And he was like, when I assassinated him, I was so happy because I wanted to run to the Prophet ﷺ and tell him, Ya Rasulullah, look what I did. Because I wanted to make up for what I did with Hamza. And he said, by the time I had come back to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ had already passed. So I'm saying like forgiveness is different stages, it's different levels. It doesn't mean that you have to maintain the same type of relationship. The Prophet ﷺ, during the final years, the biggest problem he had to deal with was the hypocrites. And like, this is something that's really, really painful, and I think it's something that I just want to touch on. We have about 5 minutes until then. Just imagine, you know, and some people will be like, oh, how can someone do this? Or how can someone say that? Or how can someone touch the blessed hand of the Prophet ﷺ? How can someone pray behind him and hear his recitation? How can someone fight next to him ﷺ? How can someone, when he asks, give to him and still not believe in their heart? Right, it's tough, right? So it's not strange if we see people doing things hypocritically. If people can be like that with him, ﷺ, yeah, they can be like that with anyone. So conquest of Mecca, like we said, we had talked about this and we discussed this. And finally, the greatest calamity that ever befell the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ was his death, by far. Anything that happened, anything that is happening, anything that will happen. There's nothing greater and nothing more devastating than the death of our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the companions, they took it really hard, right? It was really difficult for them. Why was it so hard for them? They knew the Prophet ﷺ was a human being. They knew he was going to die. Why was it so difficult for them? How come you had Umar was like, anybody who says he's dead, I'm going to cut off his head? Like, why? Like that? Why would they have that reaction for people who have so much Iman and so much belief? Why? What happened?
Well, because he asked, he said, those who love, you won't be a good Muslim or a true Muslim until you love Allah and you love His Prophet.
Yeah. But before yourself, 100%. So they loved him a lot, no doubt. But I'm saying, even with love, you understand that people die and pass away. Why? Why such a visceral reaction?
Maybe that's
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like just who became generations after, we see how impactful Rasulullah's life was.
Yeah.
What he had like impact on people. I can't imagine how people actually knew him, how that would feel to lose that.
I respect the pain,
Yeah.
right? I respect the pain, and I think it was Miqdad. She was. They came to her and she was like, "I'm sad that he passed. I'm sadder that wahi has stopped." So that the sadness I respect 100%, but that kind of reaction that he didn't die, why? That's what I'm curious about.
The usage,
I'm sorry?
so used to him.
Okay, they're used to having him around, sure. And like, okay, so we're getting a little bit closer.
I think because he had a grounded structure, like everyone knew what Islam was,
Yeah.
and now without him,
Yeah.
people will start to find ways to.
I think they were well grounded. I don't think that was the big. I don't think that was a big issue. They thought that they would pass before him. They thought that he was going to survive all of them. So when he was taken away, right? It was such a shock. Just imagine, they're like, they didn't take him, like, you know how, like, I'm using this in a very loose way, like they kind of took his presence for granted. Like he's always going to be there. And then when he passed, what happens? It's like a shock to the system,
Like your parents.
right? It's like a shock to the system. It's like all of a sudden you're like, how do I function? Like, what do I do? Yes. Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry. But, yeah. Yeah, subhanAllah. No, even Umar radiallahu anhu, Abu Bakr, he came in, he was the only one. He was like, he went in, he checked, he kissed the Prophet ﷺ on his forehead, and he returned, he said, Ma kataballah yani al-mawtain li ahad. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't written 2 deaths for any individual. Yeah. Whoever worships Allah, then know that Allah is ever living, and whoever worships Muhammad, know that he is dead. And Umar radiallahu anh, he was like, this is like the first time I heard this, and he fell to his knees. But we'll stop here, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, wallahu alam wa sallallahu ala khairi khalqin, nabina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam.